How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. When he texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like, it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
It's a new era in CFB to start off this year, put on full display.
My take on this game is simple. I know some people will be upset about it. Good riddance to the Pac-12.
Can you do it in terms of the week to week to week?
I don't see a pathway for this team to miss the college football playoffs.
We want to make sure you have those best bets in the entirety of our betting cards. That was protected! But he had that program was already going there!
Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live on a Thursday to set the stage for a new week around the National Football League. Week 16 starts tonight with a divisional duel between two teams in the AFC West who are not the Chiefs and thus cannot win the division. KC has already clinched the AFC West, but a huge game with postseason implications between the Chargers and the Broncos to figure a ton out in that AFC playoff picture. We'll set the stage all around the NFL for a new week on the horizon. We've got Thursday games. We've got Saturday games. What is the latest on KC's quarterback and his high ankle sprain? That being Patrick Mahomes. Donnie, a night off in the NBA. We return to action around the association and a ton of college basketball this week leading up to the holiday break. It's bowl season as well, baby. DRS is fired up on this Thursday.
Oh, I am. And if I could hit the fast forward button just to get to tomorrow night's college football playoff action, leading into Saturday's college football playoff action, and Saturday's NFL action, and Sunday's NFL action, and Monday's NFL action, and next Christmas's NFL action, and the following week we're going to have, obviously, some more college football playoffs. I would do it in a heartbeat, but we can't do that. We got to set the topics out of here. And let me say this, Ben. There is a good football game tonight that will be on TV in the NFL, but I got to tell you, it might be the least exciting game I've ever looked at for prop bets here, because if I like an under in a game, oh, boy, there's going to be a lot of upset people watching that show tonight when your boy DRS is rooting on unders during that show as opposed to overs. How about that?
Listen, it could be fun, Donnie, just to switch things up and root on some unders of some props. Not something that the public or even we generally bet. We'll talk about the battle in Los Angeles tonight. And it's not like DRS is thinking an under of 51.5. Total is 41 in a hook between the Bolts and the Broncos to kick off week number 16. When you said you wanted to fast forward to all of that football action, college football playoff, NFL week 16 slate, I wasn't sure if you were going to say fast forward just through the 7-7 to update the headlines around a Wednesday evening here on a Thursday morning on the Early Line. No NBA games last night. No NFL action, of course. A lot of focus on college basketball. And dare I say, it did deliver. One top 25 tilt last night. Non-conference action in the Jumpman Invitational in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it came down to the final 15 seconds of regulation. Oklahoma, number 14 in the country, taking on number 24 Michigan. OU, one of the final 4 remaining undefeated teams at the D1 level. And the freshman, Jeremiah Fears, keeps them unbeaten. A 30-point performance and a 4-point play with just about 12 ticks remaining in regulation. OU down by 3. He buries a triple DRS, is fouled by the Wolverines' Roddy Gale. He steps up to the line, does Fears, and hits that free throw. Oklahoma stays perfect, now 11-0 with an 87-86 win over Michigan.
Yeah, this line was 2.5, 3 yesterday as a favorite towards Michigan. Got a little bit higher towards game time, and you were in a perfect position. Just play good defense, miss a three-point shot, get the rebound, get fouled, and go away with a win and a cover. And Michigan gets neither as they lose that game by 1. Solid game down there, no doubt about it, in Charlotte, 87-86. Good to see some action before we hit that holiday break.
Absolutely so, DRS. And before the holiday break, the Big East now underway in terms of conference play as well. UConn returned back to the mainland and has been playing much better basketball. 5-game win streak for the Huskies, but not easy last night in stores in their Big East opener against shorthanded Xavier. They do stave off the Musketeers, however, in overtime to win their Big East debut. Final score 94-89 in OT. Xavier covers as a 13.5-point road underdog.
Yeah, UConn's got to like the win. We get that, but they were favored by 2 touchdowns in this game and had to go to overtime. Fremantle didn't even play for Xavier, which you thought might have been the reason why that line was so high. But credit Xavier going on the road in that game and hanging tough. You don't get any bonus points for losing games, but if you're the Xavier coach, you got to like what you see. They fought hard against UConn on the road.
Connecticut, 5 straight wins since the disaster at the Maui Invitational, where they lost all 3 games on the Hawaiian Islands. Their last 4, including last night's Big East debut against Power Conference competition. Huge debut, by the way, in Big East play for Ed Cooley and Georgetown. They absolutely blow out Creighton last night by 24 points. Let's get to college football bowl season. A doubleheader of bowl games on a Wednesday. James Madison. What a 3-year run it has been in FBS. A 10-point victory for the Dukes against Western Kentucky. JMU covers as more than a touchdown favorite in the Boca Raton Bowl. Out in L.A. in a bowl game sponsored by Gronk, at least I think, UNLV, a top 25 team, pitches a shutout in the second half against Cal. The Running Rebs win 24-13 to cover as a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah, pretty good season for UNLV, capping it off with a bowl victory, 11-3 overall. Open up some of that NIL money, get after it next year. I believe also been a new coach in the fold as well from a former Power 5 school. So, hey, good for UNLV. Use that as a jumping point here for the offseason.
Barry Odom off to Purdue, the former head coach in Sin City. Dan Mullen now makes his way to Las Vegas. Should be some optimism for the Rebs entering next season. Of course, in college football, bowl season, college football playoff on the horizon tomorrow, but it's also transfer portal season. 2 of the top quarterbacks in the portal make their new homes known yesterday. John Mateer, who was sensational this season at Washington State, follows his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, to Norman. He'll head to Oklahoma. Caden Salter, a guy that can also do it both through the air and on the ground, now heads to Boulder to maybe replace Shedeur Sanders for Coach Prime.
Yeah, never heard of John Mateer before. You could have put a lineup out there. I have no idea if we're dealing with college football, pro football, PGA Tour golf, live golf at this point. But I have heard of Salter. Salter's been a pretty good move here. I'm interested to see that because Colorado is a hot spot. You know Deion's going to get you weapons at wide receiver and a lot of fast guys that can take it to the house on short routes. Salter should be able to have a really good time and a lot of fun out in Colorado.
Sensational the last few years at Liberty, but also Julian Watkins. Juju Watkins is there as well, a highly touted freshman in the 2025 class. Of course, DRS, the big news entering Week 16 around the NFL. Kirk Cousins on the bench. The rookie, Michael Penix Jr., to start for Atlanta. Yesterday, we heard from Captain Kirk. A variety of quotes will break down throughout these 3 hours. This was my favorite on why he called Michael Penix Jr. to address the elephant in the room. Quote, "I like to shoot elephants in the room, so I just wanted to shoot one."
Yeah, I don't even know where that was. I was reading that in the notes. I was like, is that actually pertaining to a quarterback change from a head coach? But without that, Michael Penix is the right move. He needs to be the quarterback. Kirk Cousins absolutely shot. We'll talk about that in the next few segments here.
The Dirty Birds, an 8.5-point home favorite, trying to get back on track against the New York Giants. Patrick Mahomes practices in full DRS for a second consecutive day. The Chiefs now a 3.5-point home favorite, hosting Houston early on Saturday.
Yeah, it's clear at this point Patrick Mahomes fakes his injuries because nobody's just stepping out there practicing full with a high ankle sprain. And what coach and what organization would let your quarterback who has a high ankle sprain practice on like a Monday, Tuesday, or a Wednesday? It's all fake at this point. I'm not buying in anymore to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm just not.
Mr. Conspiracy Theorist Donnie Rightside, Nolan Arenado, no trade clause, says, "I'm not going to Houston. You can't trade me to the Astros." Plenty of NFL conversations up next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Let's set the stage for a new week in the National Football League. Week 16 kicks tonight in Los Angeles between the Chargers and the Broncos. Huge game with AFC playoff implications to start off the third and final week of this NFL regular season. But the big story around the NFL, the Atlanta Falcons, and a quarterback change this week from Kirk Cousins, who was paid this offseason, 4-year, $180 million deal with $100 million guaranteed, to the guy they surprised everybody by drafting 8th overall out of Washington. That's Michael Penix Jr. And just to clarify something quickly, in our 7-7 update around the college football headline. Speaking of quarterbacks at that level, I said Juju Watkins, the outstanding superstar for USC women's basketball, and not Juju Lewis. That's my mistake, the freshman quarterback going to Boulder. Heck, Juju Watkins is so good, maybe she can swing it for Dion. Different story for a different time. Again, back to the issue in Atlanta. They put Kirk Cousins on the bench. The Falcons now starting Michael Penix Jr. DRS, a ton of reaction from us. But before we get there, let's hear from the head man in the A. That's Raheem Morris.
Mike's been doing everything we've asked him to do since he's been here. For us, it was just a plan with Mike that he didn't have to play right now because we had our quarterback rolling in the right direction, our team rolling in the right direction. We were doing a lot of really good things. We had a lot of really good stats, a lot of really things that you guys all love. And then right now it's time to make a change, and that's what we're doing.
What were the biggest things that stood out to you just recently from Kirk Cousins' recent play that you felt like we needed to make this change?
The turnovers. You can't turn the ball over in the National Football League and expect to win. And we got to stop those things. And that was a big part of it. Some other things in there too, Allison, but obviously the turnovers were the big one, the big factors.
Listen, that was blunt from Raheem Morris, DRS, but you can't really fault him. Atlanta, of course, snapping the 4-game slide on Monday night in Las Vegas. Wasn't pretty, though. 15-9, one total touchdown for that Atlanta offense, thrown by Kirk Cousins, but just 112 yards and yet another interception. In the 4-game slide, plus the victory in Sin City, one touchdown to 9 INTs for Kirk Cousins. Raheem Morris spelled out some of the thoughts behind the decision. Donnie, where do you land?
Yeah, I land on this as the absolute right move, and good on that organization. And maybe Raheem Morris had a lot more pull than we thought, because the one thing you do know is the owner's going to get upset with the general manager, and the general manager's kind of all set that, look, you paid this guy $180 million, $100 million guaranteed. You drafted a quarterback. This looks like a disaster. So it's the right move. And also keep in mind, the previous 4 games, as we talked about, Kirk Cousins never threw a touchdown pass, which is wild to think about with all the success that Kirk Cousins has had in the past. And then I said to myself, handicapping that game Monday night, boy, Atlanta should go up and down the field. This is a get-right game for them to sort of hit that split where you're going to knock off the Raiders, you're going to lay up against the Giants, and then you might be able to get back into that playoff picture and win the division to get that home playoff game, and away you go. And then you watch that football game and go, something just isn't right with Kirk Cousins, because this is the worst secondary in football that you can't take advantage of. As the game wore on, he looked unathletic and not making the right decisions, which means, Ben, I don't even think he was trusting himself. So I love this move. And also keep in mind, you're not playing the Kansas City Chiefs this week and saying, hey, Michael Penix, save our season. You're getting a layup against the Giants. Get the young kid, Michael Penix, some good passing spots here. You should win this game going away regardless of his performance, which is going to help the following week when you play the Commanders. Perfect time to make that change. Because also, Ben, you could have took the easy way out. Well, Kirk won the football game. As long as you win, that's all that matters. And they would have beaten the New York Giants with Kirk Cousins out there, no doubt about it. But you probably aren't going to beat the Commanders when you need elevated quarterback play, and it's clear he couldn't give that to you.
The Dirty Birds, an 8.5-point home favorite in Atlanta on Sunday afternoon against the New York Giants. They should win this football game easily. The Giants are a 2-win football team. Atlanta's still in the hunt for the NFC South at this moment. Their playoff price at plus 198, I don't really think matters, except for the fact they will play the Commanders, who they are looking up at right now, but they still trail Washington by 2 games with just 3 games remaining. Their best chance of getting to the postseason is winning the division, where they're only a game, Donnie, behind Tampa. And if these 2 teams end up this season with the same overall record, the Falcons swept the Buccaneers throughout the regular season. Boom, done. No other tiebreakers outside of the direct head-to-head advantage that Atlanta has very clearly. Donnie, there was some question on what Atlanta might do at the quarterback spot throughout the 4-game slide, entering the Monday night doubleheader to end out Week 15 around Kirk Cousins. But still, I remain skeptical the Falcons would actually make a change. And it's part of the reason, I think, when you look at the selection of Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall, in a vacuum, it was so strange and so weird. You can say now, in revisionist history, what a decision by the Falcons. They clearly were not sure that Kirk Cousins was 100% healthy and effective after the torn Achilles ended his 2023 campaign. So they wanted this guy just in case for a competitive football team. But if you wanted Michael Penix Jr. to start in year number 1, You have had an absolute failure with the guy you paid $180 million to, with 100 of that guaranteed in Kirk Cousins. It is not a great situation for the organization overall. It might be the right call right now to insert Michael Penix Jr. as the starting quarterback.
It is the right move, but you remember what they were talking about in the offseason after we were questioning these picks, and certainly the press was doing it as well. Like, you know what? It's going to be a good thing if Michael Penix actually doesn't see the field in his rookie year, because that means Kirk Cousins is playing good football. Uh-oh, Ben. Look what happened. Michael Penix saw the field because you laid down close to $200 million, half of that guaranteed, because you thought you would get 2 to 3 years at least of Pro Bowl level activity from your quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and it lasted 14 games. That's a terrible indictment, because look at this. You don't sign Kirk Cousins. You get Michael Penix. You use that money to build up your defense, your offensive line, or add another wide receiver for your young quarterback. Don't get me wrong. If Penix comes in, they'll try to spin like this was the perfect move. This is why we drafted Penix. No, it shows an indictment of how wrong you were to spend that money, and it didn't help your football team. When you lay out a check for $180 million and it doesn't help your football team and actually hurts your football team, there's no way to spin this whatsoever, Ben.
It's really well said, DRS, and that was the conversation after the selection of Michael Penix Jr., 8th overall. If it doesn't work out with Kirk Cousins, not based on injury, that you need Penix in there right away, you wasted nearly $200 million. If it does work out with Kirk, then you have wasted the 8th overall pick by the time you have to make a decision on his future in your franchise. Plenty more around the Falcons next.
I'm actually not even on a side today.
Yeah.
And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a chance. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred, or just worked on the side, or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
The NFL and college, they don't operate on the same timelines, right? UNLV's head coach just got, the Purdue job this morning, where I imagine, right, UNC probably needs to know from Bill.
And let's say it's late December, and we see 7, 8 teams open, and none of them want Bill, then Bill's got to make a decision. Does he want to be a college head coach?
Pro football today, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
So we heard from a lot of people yesterday with this Falcons franchise all around the big decision made by Atlanta entering Week 16, the change at quarterback. Kirk Cousins now on the bench, the 8th overall pick this past April out of Washington via Bloomington, Indiana. Michael Penix Jr. now the starting quarterback for the Falcons. You heard from Raheem Morris a little bit ago. We heard from Kirk Cousins, who had a ton to say yesterday. We talked about shooting an elephant. Here is Kirk on his future. Quote, I didn't forget how to play quarterback. Certainly turnovers were not what you want, but I didn't forget how to play. Michael Penix Jr. also shared yesterday, DRS. He was at Costco getting a good deal on a hot dog with that rookie money when he got the call from his skipper that he was now the starting quarterback. Let's talk about Kirk Cousins, because the financial investment Atlanta put into Kirk this year, a 36-year-old quarterback off a torn Achilles midway through the 2023 season, to pay $180 million to over a 4-year contract length with $100 million guaranteed to put him on the bench before the end of his opening year after drafting his heir apparent after you had just paid him a few weeks prior. Donnie, what do you think Kirk Cousins has left in the tank, either in Atlanta or in the National Football League as a whole?
I don't think, look, maybe a backup, but again, if he gets cut, nobody's picking up that contract here because he is a guy that maybe a spot starter too can work, but it's apparent right now he can't be your franchise guy. He's not mobile in the pocket, doesn't make the plays he used to because, how about this? Obviously, after the Achilles injury, we haven't seen him play until he got to Atlanta. And there's a lot of question marks even in training camp, like, is this guy going to be ready for the season? And maybe we misjudged how back he was from the Achilles. But it's apparent now watching him play, like he struggled to start the season, then was okay for a little bit, has really hit the skids. And again, you don't get any younger. He's 36 years old. So I don't see any other team out there that says, you know what, if he gets cut this all season, we could use him as even a bridge quarterback. Like, let's just say Aaron Rodgers gets cut from the New York Jets. We need a cheap option just for a bridge because we drafted a young quarterback, but he might not be ready. I don't even see him as that anymore. He's been that bad because you could tell at times where you're just not making the right reads, like, okay, we got to settle in. But I think more than not, 1 touchdown pass and 9 interceptions on that run, he's just not seeing the field. The arm doesn't look as strong. You can even see him taking snaps sometimes, just looking unathletic in the pocket, and that can't happen. So I don't think anybody is excited to say, boy, if they let Kirk Cousins go, I'm going to pick him up as a starting quarterback. If he does get cut, he can go be a backup quarterback. Maybe it's going to take him another year or so till that Achilles finally heals, but I don't ever see him being a starting option in the NFL ever again.
Yeah, DRS, and from a contract perspective, with all of that money guaranteed, if Kirk Cousins were to be released by Atlanta, even post-June 1st, $40 million of a dead cap hit. Even if he's traded, there's a hefty financial gain or investment that Atlanta needs to take on, $12.5 million post-June 1st. It is unfortunate because an Achilles injury is incredibly significant. Yes, we have seen Aaron Rodgers come back now at 41. He hasn't looked great overall, but now we've seen Kirk Cousins at 36. He has not looked like Kirk where we have seen him. Yeah, the primetime jokes around Kirk Cousins, or maybe the elevation he can bring a franchise to. Does he make them a surefire Super Bowl contender? Perhaps not. But there is no doubt, after the acquisition this offseason, the Atlanta Falcons became a quick odds-on favorite to win the NFC South. That was their expectation. They still have a chance with Michael Penix Jr., by the way, who is not a 20-year-old developmental type rookie. I believe he is 24. They will look to him to try to win the NFC South at a plus 320 price. Other injury news around the National Football League, DRS. You said that Patrick Mahomes is a faker. Well, he was back at practice in full on Wednesday for a second consecutive day. When Patrick Mahomes got injured on Sunday in the high right ankle sprain on a short week getting ready to host Houston early on Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time scheduled kick inside Arrowhead, when we thought that Mahomes more than likely was not going to play this week, the Chiefs were a 2.5-point home dog. They're now laying more than a field goal, 3.5, as they host Houston on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, so here's what I can't understand. Like, the best way to heal a high ankle sprain or any ankle sprain is getting rest here. So I don't understand, like, you're going to tape it up and he's going to go through full practices all week and then play on Saturday. I actually would have said, you know what? Maybe it does hurt if he was taking off until Friday's walkthrough saying, look, I know the playbook. I'm fine here. I just needed a day or two just to get some rest and, keep my leg up. But the fact that he's getting full practices in, are we even diagnosing these injuries correct anymore on Patrick Mahomes with a high ankle sprain?
It is super interesting, DRS, to debate and figure out. We'll have plenty more around Mahomes, the NFL headlines, and the playoff pictures next.
The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
Oh, that just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
I mean, this is week 16, and you're throwing this guy in the fire. I know the Giants suck, Scotty, but you got that backdrop. Just give it to Bijan 50 times if Penix isn't looking too well.
And I also think Penn State has an easy track. And I think, to be honest with you, Indiana, people are all going to say they should have never been there. And listen, I just wanted to say one last time before that happens that you can all kiss my ass.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
You're not riding Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashed.
Only on SportsGrid.
We'll talk more Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the remainder of the season outlook for KC, starting on Saturday, hosting the Texans in just a moment in one of our favorite games, NFL buy or sell. But the other NFL headlines that you need entering Week 16, T.J. Watt and his Steelers also play on a short week on Saturday afternoon in the Charm City, taking on the Ravens in a game that might dictate the outcome in the AFC North. Watt back at practice in a limited capacity after not practicing on Tuesday. George Pickens has not practiced this week either, DRS. He has missed the last 2 games for the Steelers, but he was working out on the side of the practice turf yesterday.
Yeah, a couple of those. We'll start with George Pickens. They really need him desperately back. You saw him against the Eagles. Now, the Eagles are the number 1 defense in the NFL, and you come in without your number 1 wideout. You saw how hard it was to move the football. A little bit different with Baltimore. You can pass against Baltimore, but again, if you don't have George Pickens, how effective can you be in that passing game? Number 2, do you see, we just talked about Patrick Mahomes. High ankle sprain, as reported after the game. We don't even know if the guy's going to play the next 2 to 3 weeks. Odds start to drop. Patrick Mahomes is practicing full all week. T.J. Watt sprains his ankle. So what do the Steelers do? Okay, sit out a day of practice, come back and test it a little bit to see how it is. That just seems like a more diagnosed injury than Patrick Mahomes. We'll see how it turns out. But again, George Pickens and TJ Watt, let's just say if they both miss this game or hindered, boy, that is going to be a tough hill to climb. And that's why you're seeing those 6.5s across the board at that point here. So there you go. Injury, action, and away you go. Diagnosis from your boy DRS. Come on now. Let me handle these franchises. They'll be in better shape.
We might need some more Dr. Donnie in our next headline. David Montgomery, who is going to be out for the year after undergoing surgery on his torn MCL. That was the update from his head coach, Dan Campbell, on Monday afternoon. But then Montgomery himself said he might return at some point this season, now seeking a third opinion. My guess is a third opinion could only mean one thing. That's walking into the waiting room of one Dr. Donnie.
Yeah, exactly. And how about this? I have a lot of, let's just say history with this stuff, right? 2004 Philadelphia Eagles, mid-December. Terrell Owens snapped his ankle. And he told us, don't worry, I'll be back for the Super Bowl. And we all laughed. and then he was the best player in the Super Bowl. So I want to say Detroit, hang it up, because the jokes are easy. Aiden Hutchinson, we make the Super Bowl, I'm in. And I retweet out there, like, what does he play for the Eagles now because Detroit's not making the Super Bowl? But I don't mind these guys saying, I want every opinion possible to give me some hope, because it is devastating. When you are the best team in the NFL, which Detroit was for a long stretch, and you get injured as one of the key players, boy, that's a tough pill to swallow, knowing I can't help my team anymore. So I don't mind if these guys are out looking for 5th, 6th, 7th opinions to get them back in time. So I don't really have too much to say on that hatred-wise. Otherwise, you could say, you dummy, you're going to be out for the year. I just told you that. So I could do that.
But Dr. Donnie, not even out of hatred, but just professional opinion, to let David Montgomery know if there's a chance that the Lions were to make their first ever Super Bowl in franchise history. Why are we still talking about Aaron Rodgers? Here was Aaron Rodgers yesterday, presented a hypothetical about if the Jets were to draft a rookie quarterback. If they asked me back and they drafted a guy, I'd mentor the hell out of him. That's a scary thing, but I'd try to play as well as I could to keep him on the bench. I really hope this is our last Aaron Rodgers head. The guy doesn't even want to be talked about unless it's by himself, so I hope this is our last Aaron Rodgers headline for a while.
Yeah, you know what? But see, look, again, prior past experience here. You do know, Ben, the reason why I was brought to the SportsGrid Network. It was to mentor one Kevin Walsh. He was on his way out of the business, and I completely changed it around, and now he's a superstar at the network. So it can happen. People like myself are very selfish, but when it comes to mentoring, we'll help some young kids out that need direction in life, and I do that.
Very selfish. I would agree with that. Kevin Walsh was thinking about Reuters heading back. Donnie said, no, stay here, kid.
Wrestling
Follow
career?
Me in play sports tonight.
Yeah,
you had him right. You got him back on the straight and narrow, DRS, and for that, we appreciate you immensely. Quickly, before we get into the rest of the National Football League, as we shared earlier with Juju Lewis on his way to Boulder, more of a veteran presence from the transfer portal, the Tennessee and Liberty transfer, Caden Salter, who spent the past 2 years as the starting quarterback for Jamie Chadwick and the Flames, now will make his way to Boulder to play under Deion Sanders, who is a name often put in coaching cycles if he might go anywhere else. He's staying in Boulder, and he's got some quarterbacks to choose for after his son, Shador, is probably the number 1 overall pick in 2025.
Look, you're going to be able to do some damage on the recruiting trail and the portal, Ben, because if you can just say, you want to play quarterback for me? What have you done with your quarterbacks? I don't know. Just made him the number 1 overall pick. Oh, that's nice here. And you want to be on the national stage and win big awards? Yeah, we just had the Heisman Trophy winner on our team. So things are looking up here for Colorado at this point now. I think it's a good move. That's not a leap right here. This kid played really good football at Liberty, and you're going to put him in an offense that could be explosive and fun. He seems like a great fit there, and it's a good choice by him.
The only thing I would say, Chadwick runs the new age triple option that he did at Coastal Carolina and took over to Liberty. Caden Salter last year, along with Jaden Daniels, the only quarterbacks in the country to throw for more than 3,000 yards and have 1,000 on the ground as well. This is in 2023, not this previous season in 2024. That's not necessarily the design of Colorado's offense, that is just air it out at all costs under Pat Shurmur. We shall see. I still think Juju Lewis could be their starter entering next season, even as a true freshman. Donnie, we talked about Patrick Mahomes, who with a high ankle sprain has not missed practice this week, which even if he was going to play on Saturday, the fact he is practicing in full is incredibly noteworthy. Because of that, we have seen changes in the odds for Saturday's Week 16 game as KC hosts Houston. They were a 2.5-point home underdog when it opened up. Uncertainty around the status of Mahomes. Now that it seems as though he is on track to start, they are a 3.5-point home favorite. But not just for the individual game itself, Donnie, but its ramifications for that AFC playoff picture. The Chiefs are 13-1. They're 2 games in front of Buffalo with only 3 left to hold on to that number 1 overall seed in the AFC. It was minus 195 on Monday. It's now minus 260. Of course, Buffalo has that head-to-head tiebreaker should both teams end with the same record. So, DRS, a buy or sell question to you. The Chiefs need to be the 1 seed more than the Bills do. What do you say?
It's a slight buy on this one. Like, it's not an all the way, because the reason I say that, you can just go back to last year. Oh, the Chiefs, they always have home field advantage. That's the only way they actually get the Super Bowls. Did you watch last year where after beating the Dolphins at home in Arrowhead, they go on the road and like, they can't beat the Buffalo Bills there. Oh, they beat them. Oh, now the Ravens. Boy, it's payback now. They beat the Ravens on the road. They went to the Super Bowl. Oh, there's no way on a it's not even, it's a neutral site game per se, but not a home game. They can't win this Super Bowl. Oh, they beat the 49ers. So it is a buy for me, technically, that, Kansas City needs home field advantage, because I don't think they're as talented, if that makes sense, as last year. But there's no way I can sell this and be like, oh, we've never seen Kansas City go on the road and beat good teams in a way to a Super Bowl. They just did that last year.
Want/should, absolute buy. Need because of what Donnie just laid out, I'm selling that. In fact, I think if you were to flip this question, the Bills need home field advantage as the 1 seed more than the Chiefs do. I'm fully buying into that idea. But outside of buying into the idea, Donnie, it's a matter of should or will at the end of this regular season. Here's what we have at stake for the 3 teams still in the running. The Steelers do have a case, but really it feels to be a 2-team race. And again, the Bills have the direct head-to-head tiebreaker advantage over KC. Buffalo would need Kansas City to drop 2 of its final 3, and the Bills would have to win out. Buffalo will be a hefty favorite in all of their final 3 games, twice against the Patriots. Buffalo hosts New England on Sunday as a 2-touchdown favorite at the moment. So, DRS, we buy the idea that maybe Kansas City should. Are you buying the idea that Kansas City will be that 1 seed in the AFC?
Yes, they will. And also keep in mind, I do think they beat the Texans now if Patrick Mahomes is competent in the pocket. There's a good chance they lose to the Steelers on the road. That's just a tough game. But game number 3, the Broncos, the Broncos can sting them. Keep in mind, there are scenarios where the Broncos might not even need that football game. And if Kansas City needs it, that might be a walkover victory. So, I'm buying. They're going to get the number 1 seed.
One more thought on that, and then Kirk Cousins' future next.
I'm actually not even on a side today. Yeah. And I'll get to that. Why are you on Texas?
I gave them a challenge. Maybe not me as the overwhelming authority in college football, but entering that game on this set to you guys, I said there was one elite defense entering the matchup in Austin back to end out October. It's not the Bulldogs like it used to be. It is Texas.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashed.
Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
I remember one time, I don't know if Kenny will remember this, I said put 100 on, I think I left it on a text, put 100 on this horse that won, and then Kenny called me back later and goes, hey, I never got the text. And I'm like,
no.
Oh, yeah. Remember that, Kenny?
I would never stiff anybody. He texted me as they're loading into the gate, maybe, like it's too late.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum. Not really. I just think I have made a bad bet. We were discussing this on Monday with the injury uncertainty around Patrick Mahomes, that if the Chiefs were to drop 2 of their final 3 and Mahomes was suffering with a high ankle sprain and maybe not available for the next week or 2, with a short week on this Saturday hosting the Texans and a short turnaround to play on Christmas Day in Pittsburgh, Buffalo was in prime position to earn that number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Donnie, what I did not reveal on the airwaves of the early line, at least on Monday, is that I had a KC to be the 1 seed in the AFC ticket that I bet like a month and a half ago at a minus 150 number when it seemed to me the path was pretty clear for KC after their undefeated start, even if they lost a few games to hold on to the 1 seed. So I cashed out of that bet for full value on what I had originally placed the wager and then placed my money on Buffalo to be the 1 seed with a plus 160 price because I was feeling good. Now, with Mahomes more than likely playing on Saturday, and now that KC is a 3.5-point home favorite against the Texans, Donnie, there's a good chance the Chiefs don't drop 2 of their final 3, but win at least 2 of their final 3. And if that's the case, even though Buffalo has the head-to-head tiebreak, it won't matter.
No, but by the way, it's the right move you made, though, because, handicappers are supposed to be proactive with the information that they get in the moment. And anybody wouldn't have thought you were crazy at all. Say, the minute Patrick Mahomes gets diagnosed with a high ankle sprain, and they have a sprint playing 3 games in 10 or 11 days, and 2 of those games are coming up here against tough opponents where he might not play at all in those games, that's the right move to make. The only crazy part is the misdiagnosis, obviously, of how terrible this high ankle sprain is. So I can't fault you oh, no, you had a winning ticket that you cashed into a losing ticket. No, you made the right structure with the information you had at the moment, which should have turned into profitability, even if Patrick Mahomes would have missed one of those games, because as you saw, the Houston Texans were a favorite on the road at Kansas City. So therefore, you were playing it as even the odds makers think Kansas City is going to lose this game, then a really tough game at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then you'll see what they have the final weeks against the Denver Broncos. So you didn't make the wrong decision. You just didn't get the right information out of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all. Yeah, come on.
Thanks. You're a good mentor, man. You're a great doctor. See? You're a good mentor. I appreciate that. I'm on conspiracy theorist right side's side here, that I don't even think it was a severe high ankle sprain or maybe an injury at all. Does Mahomes even have a right ankle? Are birds real? Those are the questions that Donnie is asking, and thus I agree. For birds, by the way, that was just happened to work like that. The Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins, of course, they are starting Michael Penix Jr., the 8th overall pick this past April in the 2024 NFL Draft, Week 16, as the Falcons still in the hunt for the NFC South crown. It does not seem that Kirk Cousins has much of a future left with the Falcons franchise, however. But, Donnie, because of the financial investment, as you see the stats for Captain Kirk in his only year in Atlanta, year number 13 of his NFL career, they paid him $180 million this offseason over a 4-year deal. Not easy to get out of. $100 million of that guaranteed. Again, not easy to get out of without taking on some of that financial burden. We have shared a couple of the numbers that will factor into the decision that Atlanta has to make moving forward. If he is cut post-June 1st, it's a $40 million dead cap hit, even if they trade him at some point this summer for anybody that is willing to take him on. Atlanta still needs to take the burden of $12.5 million on their payroll. So all of that, Donnie, does factor into the buy or sell question to you. Kirk Cousins is still a starting caliber NFL quarterback.
No, he's not. And where we're at, we're selling that all the way down. And also understand this. This wasn't the Atlanta Falcons after that performance and Raheem Morris getting together with his coaching staff and the general manager going, okay, we got to jumpstart this franchise somehow. Let's just see what Michael Penix has to offer for the New York Giants game, and then we'll go from there. The word coming out of Atlanta is, no, this is permanent. Like, we just moved on from Kirk Cousins at this point, which means we don't think he can play as well as a rookie that we've never seen in game action in the midst of a playoff race. If there was an inkling from that ownership group / general manager and coaching staff that Kirk Cousins was still the right guy, They're right in the thick of the playoff race. They have a layup this weekend, and they're telling you, we can't even put Kirk Cousins out there against the Giants because we need better play at the quarterback position if we want to sweep the final 3 games, and hopefully you see a loss from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's just say, against the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. So if you're thinking that he can't beat out a rookie at that price level and they're going to release him in the offseason, where's he going to go when the next thing goes like, you know what? This is the perfect guy we needed because we think we're really close to winning a division. Because let's make no bones about this. I love the move for them to get Kirk Cousins in the offseason because I saw the minute they got Cousins figuring he would be healthy and be competent, they were the best team in that division. And if you're an ownership group and a team, you owe it to your fan base to say, you know what? We have a chance to win this division. Let's get this quarterback. And it didn't work out at all. There's no way another franchise is going to pick up Kirk Cousins and say, you know what? We're close to the playoffs or we think we can win the division. This is our guy. So I'm selling it there. There's no way Kirk Cousins is going to be a legitimate NFL starter on a franchise that's actually looking to do anything in the future.
It is crazy how quickly the fall off can happen, and we'll never truly know, but I guess we are seeing some of those ill effects after trying to recover from a torn Achilles as a 36-year-old quarterback, a guy that was paid nearly $200 million just under a year ago, that by the time he reaches this next NFL offseason might be a backup for however long he has left in the National Football League. So starting caliber, I would sell. Start another game in the NFL, I will absolutely buy. Now, I wonder what the trade market is based on value, right? Because what do you have to give Atlanta, if anything, in return for Kirk Cousins?
Zero.
But it's not even what draft assets or capital do you have to pay, DRS. It's what you have to pay legitimately Kirk Cousins based on what his contract is. Are you willing to take on that burden? That is the interesting thing. Donnie, do you think somebody this NFL offseason makes a move for Kirk?
No, I don't, because I don't think he can play. You go back a couple years, the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz. Sam Bradford was still supposed to be that starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater gets injured. They traded Sam Bradford. Why? Because they didn't have to. Every other team's going to be like, wait, Penix is your starting quarterback. You're going to cut this guy. Why would I pay you anything for this guy? He'll clear waivers. I'll get him for $1.
I think that's probably very fair in that assessment. More buy or sell around the NFL next.
You're not riding with Josh Allen. Where have you gone? Don't tell me it's your Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie. Who's the team for you?
You see that Vince Lombardi trophy that sits back here? That's a replica. And that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles have won as recent as 2017. The Buffalo Bills are notorious for making it to the Super Bowl and coming up lame, which they might be able to do. But my question is, can the Buffalo Bills even get to the Super Bowl?
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
This is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid. The holidays come with a touch of craziness, from unwrapping the latest storylines to the best betting insights. We've got everything you need to crank up the excitement this season. We can't promise there won't be a little yelling.
Play a decent schedule. They have maybe 500.
Oh, that just ruined my day.
But we can guarantee a whole lot of fun. Merry Christmas from all of us at SportsGrid.
We round out this opening hour with a little bit more NFL buy or sell entering week number 16. Maybe it's not just a playoff race, a divisional push. You're trying to figure out your postseason seeding, or if your team stinks this year, your draft position for this upcoming April in 2025. But looking at the guys that were drafted early on in 2024 in the individual hardware races, DRS coming down the stretch. MVP, Josh Allen. Hefty favorite. NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, also a quarterback booked as a hefty favorite. Could he go Heisman Trophy into Offensive Rookie of the Year? That's what the odds are saying for Washington's Jaden Daniels. Minus 4,000. Buy or sell, DRS. The Offensive Rookie of the Year race is over. Finished. Done. Finito.
Sell that. How could it look? First off, we're mispricing here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I'm sorry, minus 4,000. Look, I think right now if the season ended, he would be the Rookie of the Year. But the problem is we got 3 games to go in high leverage games on both sides. You're telling me right now Bo Nix goes 3-0 with the teams he's playing and finishes out that season with a playoff run that nobody anticipated. He's not going to get closer. And also, look at Jaden Daniels on the way out. The Philadelphia Eagles game this weekend, they're underdogs. Let's just say they lose that. I know the Falcons come to town. And if Penix plays well against the Giants, that's no layup there. And the craziest thing about this is the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones are so maniacal right now that they want to play out the string and win football games when all they should be doing is losing to try to get the best player possible. So let's just play again, devil's advocate. Washington loses 3 straight. Denver wins 3 straight. Jaden Daniels doesn't win the award. No chance. So I think he wins it, yes. But I'm selling that he already has it wrapped up. That price point is way too high because what happens if we see tonight? You go on the road in a divisional game and you beat the Chargers. Then Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles beat Washington. What's that price point then, Ben? Minus 1,500 here? No way is this race over yet. I'm not saying Jaden Daniels isn't going to win it, but minus 4,000 and he has it wrapped up, no shot.
So I do think it's over. I don't know if I would price it as strongly as DRS. I do hear the arguments. I think Jaden Daniels is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. One, because of the narrative and how great he was right away. And even with some struggles midway through the season, he is playing elite football once again. Washington snapped its 3-game skid, and out of the bye last week against the Saints, he was pretty darn good again. 25 for 31 for 226, 2 touchdowns, and 66 yards on the ground. The last 2 games, DRS, after that 3-game slide for the Commanders, the efficiency back to historic levels for Daniels. 83% in the big win against Tennessee. Completion percentage, nearly 81 last week in the Big Easy against the Saints. I do think Jaden Daniels is going to comfortably win this award. But the argument that you are making is incredibly sound. Because we have shared this so many times, and we did entering the year with Caleb Williams, booked as the favorite, that quarterbacks, unlike many other awards around football, collegiately or professionally, if a quarterback can win an award, they often do. Not the case in Offensive Rookie of the Year. Only 4 of the previous 10 winners have played the quarterback position in the last decade, because you put the success of a team, a win-loss record, on the quarterback first and foremost. So you need to be a good team. You need to be flirting with the postseason. Both Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix are doing that for the Commanders and Broncos, respectively. So if Bo Nix does go on a run and has a couple of primetime and marquee games, maybe even including DRS, week number 18 against the Chiefs in a game that could decide Denver's playoff outlook in the number 1 seed in the AFC, then maybe Bo's got a little bit of life.
No, he does have some life, but also, let's play devil's advocate on my argument. You see on Sunday, Jaden Daniels outperformed Jalen Hurts, and they beat the Philadelphia Eagles. And you watch tonight, Herbert takes care of the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. This race will be over at that point. But I just look at it the way I think it's going to play out, where it's going to get much closer than what it is, because there are tough games and high-leverage situations. Also, keep in mind, you look at Washington, who is having a good season. Their best win may be Arizona earlier on, which is basically a 500 football team. So it's not as if they're slaying teams like the Ravens and, the Chiefs on a back-to-back basis. Like, hey, we already had these quote-unquote Heisman moments. He's a favorite for a reason. He is the best rookie right now, but the season isn't over. And let's see how it plays out.
But we don't really talk strength of schedule as a metric as we evaluate resumes within the National Football League. But shout out to my guy, Bo Nix, one of the best bets I have ever made. Over his rookie yards prop for his rookie campaign, $28.50 and a hook. He's got 2,972. Cash that ticket, Bo. More about Bo, the Broncos, and the Bolts when Hour 2 starts next.